Hello again, Homeschool Plus students. My name is Amy Gardner, and you might know me as your friendly high school or science teacher, high school geography teacher, hooping teacher, or jewelry making teacher. What you might not know about me is that about 15 years ago, I taught a different class at Homeschool Plus. From 2004 until 2006, right after I graduated from Homeschool Plus, I taught sewing. Now, as much as I love sewing, I did not love teaching it. I like teaching my current subjects that I teach much better. So I only stuck around for 2 years teaching sewing. And now sewing is taught by Sarah Bethune, who is an absolutely wonderful person and whose class you should definitely go check out if you are interested in sewing. Today, we are going to be making face masks. I'm going back to my roots and I'm teaching Homeschool Plusers a sewing project. Now, let me tell you about how these masks came to be. I wasn't planning on really making masks because I had read a lot of information about, cloth masks don't work, just don't even bother, they do more harm than good, yada, yada, yada. What changed my mind about it is when a friend of mine from our church approached me and asked me to make some fabric masks for her. She is an ER doctor and they are running low on supplies. She admitted that something like an N95 mask is superior to a cloth mask, but something is better than nothing. And they are quickly running out, and as she is an ER doctor and very likely to come in close contact with COVID-19 patients, she wanted to give herself as much protection as possible. So she asked me to make 5 masks for her. Now, she had a design all picked out. It was a design by a very talented quilter named Leah Day. She has a tutorial on YouTube about it, and I highly recommend that you go check it out if you'd like. I'm basically going to be teaching the same thing here, but I made a few little adjustments that aren't mentioned in her tutorial. So this design was picked out by an ER doctor for how safe it is, basically. She wanted something that would give her the most protection that a cloth mask could possibly give. And the two sort of things that you have to focus on when making a cloth mask is the filtration material. Cloth doesn't filter out much. You need actual filtration material inside this pocket to filter out the really bad stuff. So this mask features a pocket for filtration material. And the next thing you need is a good seal around your face. Without a good seal, the filtration material is not even going to do anything because air is just going to come in through the sides or through the top or through the bottom, and it's not going to go through the filtration material and get filtered out. So a mask has to have a good seal. And for that reason, this one has adjustable straps. You can also make it with elastic. I'm going to show you how to make it with elastic, although elastic is becoming very hard to find. And there's a pipe cleaner running through the top that you can bend and mold to your face. So the way you wear this mask is you put filtration material in here if you'd like. That pocket goes up against your face. The loops go around your ears. You're going to want to take the top here. My pipe cleaner is a little off to the side, so I'm just going to squeeze it back over to the side here. You're going to want to fit that top pipe cleaner to your face. And then take the straps, hold the knot here and the knot down here, and pull until it's tight. And you have a mask. After you've worn your mask, you can remove your filtration material and replace it for the next time you need to use it. And this part can just be thrown in the washing machine. I would recommend using hot water and let it air dry if you use elastic, because throwing it in the dryer will wear out the elastic much faster. If you have cording like this, you can just toss it into your dryer and you're all done, and it's ready to use for the next time you go out. So go ahead, grab some supplies, and let's get started. Okay, so here are the tools and materials that you will need for this project. For the materials, you will need a piece of fabric. The best kind of fabric to use is a crafting fabric. You can get these in the quilting section of any fabric store. And a lot of you probably have this around your house already, especially if you're already a crafter. It's typically 100% cotton. It's fairly thin. It doesn't have a stretch to it. And this is an ideal fabric to work with when making these masks. You will also need some kind of strap so you can fasten the mask to your head. For that, you can either use elastic or some cording. Now, if you're going to use elastic, you're going to need either 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch elastic. Anything larger than 1/4 inch is going to be too big and bulky to wear. You won't be comfortable while wearing your mask. So you'll need to make sure it's smaller than that. You can also use elastic cording, which is kind of round. If you do that, you will need to tie a knot in the end of the cording before you sew it together. That way it won't slip out through your stitches. You will also need a pipe cleaner for this mask, as well as something to sew with. So you'll need either a sewing machine with thread or a needle and thread. A sewing machine is going to make this mask a lot stronger, but you can do this by hand if you feel more comfortable. Now for tools, you will need a basic ruler, a pair of scissors. These are a pair of pinking shears. If you have these, then great. If not, don't worry, they're not essential. A pair of needle nose pliers, chalk, or even a pencil or a pen will work fine. You don't have to have anything fancy like this. This is quilter chalk here, which is pretty fancy. You don't need anything that fancy. You can just use a pencil or a pen if you need, and pins. Okay, so let's begin by prepping all of the materials that we need before we start putting everything together. So first, you will need to cut out a piece of fabric that is 9 inches by 15 inches. You guys can figure that out. It's not hard. Just make sure that you cut the fabric on the grain. You don't want to cut it at a diagonal because then it will twist as you're trying to sew it. So make sure you cut it out nice and straight against the selvage or the fold of the fabric. Next, you will need to prepare your straps. Now, if you have elastic, that is great because that's going to be the easier option for this project. However, if you guys remember, about a month ago, there was a great toilet paper apocalypse where you couldn't find toilet paper like anywhere. This month, it's the elastic apocalypse. You cannot find elastic anywhere because everyone bought elastic to make masks, which is great. A lot of these masks are going to healthcare workers, which is fantastic that everyone's pitching in. But it might leave you in a bit of a tight spot because you won't be able to find elastic. If you have elastic in your house, that's great. Use that because you're not going to find it anywhere else. I went online, I checked on Amazon and around different sites, and everything was on back order until the summer. So if you don't have any elastic, don't bother even looking for it. You're not going to find it. This is 1/4 inch elastic, and it's one of my last little pieces. If you are making a mask for a man, a grown man, you will need to cut these elastic pieces about 7 inches long. For a woman, they will need to be 6 inches long, and for a child, 5 inches long. Now, I noticed that with my kids, 5 inches was it was a little bit big on them, so you might need to adjust that a little bit. And of course, not all men will wear a 7-inch strap, and not all women will wear a 6-inch, but I have found that in general, that's the way it goes. My husband can wear a 7-inch strap mask with no problem. Those fall off my face, but I can wear a 6-inch one very well. And all of the masks that I've given away been the same thing. If I give a mask to a guy, it's a 7-inch strap, and for a woman, it is a 6-inch strap. Okay, and then you have this kind of strap here, which is this is basically like shoelace material here. I have no idea where this came from. I've had it in my stash of sewing supplies for probably about 15 years now. Again, no idea where it came from. I did not purchase this. Someone gave it to me. I don't know who. But this was, there was a lot more on this yesterday. And then I made about 15 masks yesterday. So it's been pretty depleted. But I'm going to show you how to make adjustable straps out of this. And then you will need a pipe cleaner. Now let's get started by prepping our pipe cleaners. So you're going to have a pipe cleaner that runs through the top of your mask so you can mold it to your face. You have two options in how you can prepare the pipe cleaner for the mask. The stronger option is you can take a pipe cleaner, and they come standard and 1 foot long lengths. You're going to bend it in half. And then just very lightly twist it together. This will give you a nice, strong wire up at the top. So if you have enough pipe cleaners to do this, I actually recommend doing it this way. Most of mine were made with the way I'm about to show you, but this way I think is actually better. So this side, the folded side, is fine. It's not pointy. This side is very pointy. So this is where your needle nose pliers come in. You don't want this being able to poke through your mask and stick your wearer in the face. So what you're going to do is just take the very tip, that pointy tip with the needle nose pliers, and curl it back onto itself. Oh, I just got one there. You're going to curl it back onto itself so that it cannot poke out and poke the wearer. Okay, so see, that's nice and soft now. It's not going to prick me. And that's all ready. Your other option is take your pipe cleaner, fold it in half, take a pair of scissors, chop it in half, and then you're going to do the same thing with your needle nose pliers. You're going to grab it and twist down, and then the same thing on the other side. And your pipe cleaner is all ready to go. So now your pipe cleaner is ready to go and your fabric is ready to go. If you have elastic, that is ready to go because you have cut 2 strips of 7-inch or 6-inch or 5-inch, depending on what you're making the mask for, and that is ready to go too. Now, let me teach you how to make straps with this stuff. So I make adjustable straps like I showed you in the former clip, the beginning clip of this video. These are going to take some time, but if you ask me, they're worth it. They're much better than straps that you have to tie. They are comfortable. They're just better. So I recommend doing it this way. If you don't have shoelace material like this or elastic, you can use fabric. And you can fold and sew that fabric in such a way that you can create a strap with it. In order to do that, you're going to cut a piece of fabric that is much longer than this. This is just a little piece of paper that I got to show you what you should do for this. You're going to cut a long strip of fabric that is 1.5 inches wide. Okay? And then you're going to fold that fabric in so that the edges touch in the center. This is be about the time that you need an iron and you need to iron this down. Then you're going to fold that paper again in half and iron it again, and then sew that open edge together. And it'll give you a nice long strip of fabric to work with. Once you have it in that long strip, you can cut it down to the pieces that you need. So I'm going to demonstrate with this how to make the strap. So I'm going to work right off the spool. I'm not going to cut anything yet. I'm going to take this edge and I'm going to tie a knot. This knot is very important. You cannot skip this knot. And then I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to put this at the beginning of the ruler and measure 8 inches. This stretches a little bit. I'm going to keep it relaxed and cut it at the 8-inch when it's relaxed. Okay, so this is for one side. Then you need to make the loop for that one side. Now here's where it gets a little complicated. You'll be able to do this really fast once you get some practice, but pay close attention for now. So what I'm going to do is hold this end with my thumb and pointer finger and then make a loop. From here, I'm going to make a slip knot. I'm going to take this part of the string that's still attached to the spool, bring it around the back of the loop, and bring it through the loop. So this is what you should have. You have about a 1-inch tail here and then a loop. Now get that knot so that's about 1 inch away from that tail, and then take that tail and pull. That'll tighten up your knot. Okay, so now that your knot is nice and tight, grab it with your thumb and pointer finger again, and you'll notice that I can pull this loop and make it bigger and smaller. Okay? Next, you're going to take that piece that you just cut with the knot. You're going to put the knot through the loop, hold it there, and then you're going to pull that loop as tight as it will go. So take your long strap, pull it, and I mean pull it tight. I'm going to just hang on to the knot here and just pull as hard as I can. Okay, that's going to give a nice tight hold for this. Now watch, I'm going to take my knot here and pull. And there is your adjustable strap. Okay, so now I'm going to look at this tail here, going to turn it over, line up the tail with my extra string, and cut it. So now I have 2 1-inch tails coming out here, and the strap is going through. That is 1 strap. You will need 2 of these per mask. Okay, now let's get started on the actual construction of the mask. I've got my straps here. I made another one off camera. One thing that I forgot to mention was if you want, you can actually burn the end of this a little bit next to the knot if you want it to not get fluffy and unraveled. It's not important for the other parts because these parts are all going to be sewn into the mask. This is the one part that will be exposed on the outside of the mask. So you can go ahead and burn that if you want. If you make fabric straps, do not burn it because it will not melt. It will just set your fabric on fire. So please don't do that if you make cloth straps. Okay. All right, so let's take our piece of fabric again, 9 inches by 15 inches. You're going to fold it in half so the 9-inch sides are together, and you're going to have right sides of your fabric together. So the good side of your fabric you want to have on the inside. And you want to line that up nice and straight. Next, you're going to need to take your ruler and line that up with the top. Okay, so this 9-inch piece of fabric here. And I'm going to take my chalk and I'm going to make 2 marks. I'm going to make 1 mark at the 3-inch line and another mark at the 6-inch line. All right, and before I run this through the machine, I am going to grab my pinking shears. This is optional, but if you have them, it's a great thing to do. And I am just going to trim the very edge of this fabric. This will keep the fabric from fraying. Now these edges will be on the inside of the mask, but one edge will be slightly exposed. So I'm going to just do this to ensure that the fabric does not fray. It is optional. You really don't have to worry about it. It's not a big deal if you don't do it because it's not going to fray that much. Another option is you could always just cut a zigzag line with a pair of scissors, but quite honestly, I would not even bother because it's not that important. So next, you're going to put this through your machine. You're going to sew from here to the first purple line, and then start at this line, and sew again to the edge. You want to leave a 1-inch seam allowance. So 1 inch from the very tip of these points to your stitches. Okay, so I just finished stitching the top of my mask together. So the next thing you're going to do is open your mask out so that the seam is laying flat against your table. Then you're just going to finger press this open. If your material does not want to stay open, or if you're just very picky, you can also do this with an iron. I just finger press it because it's easier that way. Okay, so it's nice and finger pressed. I have got my filter pocket right here. Next, I'm going to take the mask by either side of the seam and bring it up like this so that this top edge of this one seam allowance is touching the fold. Now it can be a little higher or a little lower. It doesn't have to be exact, but that's roughly where you want it. And now you're ready to pin in your straps. So I'm going to show you how to pin in both types of straps. So let's start, actually here, let's start with this one. Okay, so this is that string one that we made. So for this, you're going to start by the top is this part here. Okay, so this is the part that runs through. This is going to be the top. This is going to get pinned in right here. And then these two tails are going to be pinned in the bottom. But this has to actually be inside the mask. So let's slip it inside. And then line up this top portion with the top edge. And then I'm going to grab my pins and I'm going to put a pin right there. Okay, now I'm going to reach in the mask, pull this out, I'm going to bring it down a little bit lower, and I'm going to pin this to this edge. Now this doesn't quite want to make it all the way down. Oh, actually there, now it did. Okay. So I'm going to sort of tuck it into the bottom here with those two little tails sticking out just a little bit. And I'm going to pin it right there. I'm going to sort of pin it at an angle so that it catches both tails. All right. And then you're going to stitch it. Leave about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of seam allowance. You'll probably have to do more of a 1/4 inch because if you go over too far, you're just going to hit your cording on the inside. So right down here, I would recommend 1/4 inch. You can get up to 1/2 inch if you would like. If you're using elastic, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take your elastic and do the same thing. You're going to put it inside the mask and then pin it in place. If you're using elastic cording, make sure you put a knot right here so that that knot will catch if the cording starts to slip through your stitches. Then I'm going to reach inside and grab that elastic. Now this is kind of a tricky part here because your elastic is shorter than the length of your fabric. And you're going to want to keep that fabric so that you pin it right at the fold where it needs to go down here. So what I do is I hold it at the top, kind of walk my fingers down. And that way when I pull on the elastic, I don't lose my place. And then I kind of just shimmy it down in there, for lack of a better word. Pick it up, get it nice and straight. I'm going to actually put the pin inside and push the elastic down, make sure it's nice and flush with that bottom fold. And then I'm going to pin it. Okay, now as you can see, this is going to be a little harder to stitch. When you're sending this through your machine, what you're going to start doing is start at the top and keep that nice and put together on that side. You're going to stitch down, and then as you go, you're going to pull the bottom part so that you can flatten out these edges. So along here, again, you're going to pull that bottom part. As you pull the bottom part, your top part is going to scrunch up, but that's fine because you've already stitched it. Keep pulling down until you stitch all the way to the bottom. Make sure you back stitch. That's going to help hold your elastic in place as well as keep your stitches from coming out. If you're doing the cord method, you're going to do the same thing. Just start up here, sew all the way down. Okay, so now you should have something that looks like this. So now you need to find your filter pocket, and you're going to reach in and flip the mask right side out. Go ahead and flatten it out. For your filter pocket, make sure that these edges here are flipped under so they're nice and neat. Go ahead and give it a little press. And it's starting to take shape here. So the next thing you're going to do is grab your ruler and chalk again and start making some marks. So I'm going to line up my ruler with the top of the mask and make sure it's nice and straight. Now it's very important to work from the top of the mask. Do not work from the bottom. This needs to be from the top. The top is where your filter pocket is. This is the part that goes up against your face, so this is the part where you want to put the marks so they're not showing on the outside. So I'm all lined up against that edge. I'm going to take my chalk and I'm going to make 6 marks at each inch line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then I'm going to do that on the other side. Again, I'm working from the top. And I'm going to make 6 marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now my mask is ready to be pleated and stitched into its final form. So to make the pleats, what you're going to do is pinch your bottom mark so that that mark is at the top of your pinch. Then you're going to fold it up so that that mark is touching the next mark. So this is mark number 6, and I folded it up and it's now touching mark number 5. I want to make sure it's nice and straight along this edge. I don't want it to be crooked, so I don't want it to be like this or like this, so it's sticking out. I want that nice and straight. Once it's in there, I'm going to pin it in place. Then I'm going to do that again with this line. So this is mark number 4, and I'm going to fold it up to mark number 3. Mark number 2, and I'm going to fold it up to mark number 1. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So now you have your pleats and your mask. At this point, I like to take it very carefully and pull it, and you should see your pleats appear here. Now you want them, when you pull it, you want them to lie flat. You don't want any twisting in there. Okay, and then to make this easier, so I just have to run this through my machine once, I'm going to take my pipe cleaner and I'm going to insert it through the filter pocket. Try not to bend it if you can. Okay, you will have to bend it probably a little bit to get it in, but just very gently. Keep it as straight as you can, and you're going to want to insert it up here. This is the channel that your pipe cleaner is going to sit in. And then you're going to want to pin that down. I'm feeling where the pipe cleaner is to make sure that I don't pin the pipe cleaner down. I want it to be able to move around loosely, move around freely inside that channel. Okay, then I'm going to run this through my machine. I'm going to start here, go up, stitch right along this channel. I'm going to make sure not to catch this pocket. This needs to stay open, so I'm going to pull this over and stitch right along the edge here until I get to this side, and then stitch down this way. Now when you're stitching this way in the direction that your pleats are folded, your machine is going to like that. Your presser foot is going to keep your pleats right where they need to be. When you're going against your pleats, your machine is going to want to kind of push them out of where they're supposed to be. So they'll kind of end up getting stretched like this. You don't want that. So as you are going along, I would recommend lifting your presser foot. So it would actually be going this way. So you're coming along, you're feeding it through your machine. Your presser foot is here. As your presser foot starts to come in contact with this pleat, lift your presser foot up so that pleat fits nicely under it. Put your presser foot back down, and you can continue stitching. Once you do it with that top pleat, the rest are going to be fine, because if you look here, this pleat is actually going to be mushed down. You see that? It's going to be mushed down into place, into this little gap here. So you really only have to worry about that first pleat stretching. So make sure you lift up your presser foot and you get it under there. When you're finished, if you look and this side is longer than this side, You might have to go back and redo it. It's okay if they're just a tiny bit off, but if they're a lot off, then you're not going to get a good seal with your mask. So you're going to need to rip out your stitches here and go back and redo them. And this is your final project. So you can see my stitches here. Go up and over. Here's my filter pocket. And then back down around the sides. I can adjust by pulling these. And I can mold the top to my face using the pipe cleaner that's in there. The pipe cleaner should always stay free to move around. So once you're finished, you might be able to feel, like, see, this pipe cleaner is really mushed over this way. I can feel the end right here and right here. We want that to be more in the middle. So I'm just going to take it and scoot it a little bit more towards the middle. There, that's much better. And then you can mold it around your face. Remember, the pocket goes against your face. This is the outside of the mask. This is the inside. Okay, so now that your mask is complete, let's just talk briefly about filtration material. Now, the filtration material is what you put inside of your filter pocket to filter out small particles. Apparently, filtration material is also becoming a hot commodity, kind of like elastic, and it's becoming harder to find. For that reason, I do not buy it for myself. This provides enough protection for me if I'm going to the grocery store. I feel like I'm staying away from other people. I don't need something like super heavy duty if the filtration material is running out. If the filtration material is running out, then I personally feel better leaving it for the doctors because they are going to be in close contact with COVID-19 patients and they need as much protection as possible. Now, if you're making this for the healthcare worker in your life and you would like to buy some filtration material, I got some information from my friend about what you should look for. Again, you might have a hard time finding this. So this is just like the air filter cartridges that you put in your air vents at home. First, you need to not use fiberglass filtration. Apparently, it's harder to find now. You might not even see it, but if you do see it, don't buy it. Fiberglass contains some very nasty, unhealthy stuff, and you don't want it right up against your face. Now, there are several bits of information that you'll look at on the cartridge. One of them is MERV, M-E-R-V. Another one is MPR, and this is in all capital letters. I forget, I actually looked up what those stood for and I can't remember, but it basically has to do with particle size. You'll have a MERV followed by a number and an MPR followed by a number. The higher the number, the smaller the particle the filter will catch. So for your MERV, you're going to want a 12 or higher, and for your MPR, you're going to want a 1500 or higher. Those will catch the really small particles. And make sure that when you're putting it in your mask, you put it in the right direction. If you look at a cartridge, an air filter cartridge for your vent, you will notice an arrow pointing in one direction on the side of the cartridge that indicates the airflow. So as you're putting it in your mask, you want that arrow to be pointing towards your mouth and nose. If you have it going the other way, it's not going to do as much good. You need to have it pointed in the right direction. Okay? And if you put filtration material in your mask, then you are officially done. Even if you don't put it in the mask, then this is ready to go out to the grocery store, out for a walk, wherever. This will give you, some, good protection. You want to make sure it has a good seal around your face. So when you put it on, you're gonna adjust that pipe cleaner so it's nice and flush against your face. And then you're going to take these, tighten them up. So as I'm breathing, I don't feel any air coming out the sides or the top. It's nice and tight and sealed around my face. All right, so this one is done. And I hope you guys found this tutorial to be very helpful. Fun mask making, and I will talk to you later.